Well, today we begin the spiritual discipline of worship, and how exciting that on the day we begin this discipline, we're actually going to be welcoming people back to worship in the sanctuary, as well as continuing with our larger group of worshipers who are watching online. Our first devotion is from John's Gospel, from the 4th chapter, and the theme is worshiping God in spirit and in truth. And this brief passage is part of a much larger story of an encounter between Jesus and a woman of Samaria. And they begin to engage in conversation, which is highly unusual because Jews have nothing to do with Samaritans at that time. And for Jesus to speak to a Samaritan woman is to cross over really two boundaries. And beginning at verse 19, the woman says to Jesus, "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and His worshipers must worship in the Spirit and in truth." Well, as we begin our journey focusing on worship throughout this week, we need to begin by asking, well, what is worship? What do you think of when you hear the word worship? Do you think of engaging in particular things like singing a song, or offering or hearing a prayer, or sharing a scripture, or hearing a message? Do you think of being in a particular place, or with a particular group of people, or do you see yourself alone? But worship is more than forms of worship. Worship is an experience. It's an experience of the living God that involves our praise and adoration, our confession, and it's something that touches our whole being. And it begins by worshiping, as Jesus says to the Samaritan woman, in spirit, by offering all that we are, and in truth. We want to worship only that which is worthy of our worship. And that's where the word worship comes from, to ascribe worth to. And part of what I'll be sharing in my sermon today is the important truth that we become like who and what we worship and who and what we praise. So we want to make sure that we're worshiping God in spirit and in truth.